On the quiet waters of the Hudson River, where modern cities reflect off calm tides, there was once a warship that seemed forgotten by time. A ship that served the United States Navy, sailed across distant oceans, fought unseen battles of diplomacy and power, and then vanished from public memory. Her name was USS Mohican. Some called her a relic, others a ghost ship, a vessel whose final years were spent not in glory, but in silence near the Hudson. This is the true story of USS Mohican, a ship that lived a full life and faded quietly into history. The Hudson River has witnessed centuries of American history. Colonial trade, Revolutionary War defenses, industrial growth, and naval activity. Many ships passed through its waters, but few carried the legacy of USS Mohican. She was not a massive battleship, nor a famous aircraft carrier. She was a gunboat built for presence, patrol, and power projection. USS Mohican represented a transitional era of the United States Navy, when steam replaced sail, when America expanded its influence beyond its shores. Yet, despite her service, she became one of the forgotten ships, a ghost of the river and the past. If you are interested in real forgotten naval history, consider subscribing. These are real ships, real sailors, and real stories that history often leaves behind. USS Mohican was launched in 1883, built at the Delaware River Iron Shipbuilding and Engine Works. She was a steel-hulled gunboat, a symbol of modern naval design for her era. Length approximately 190 feet. Displacement over 1,000 tons. Powered by steam engines, she carried naval guns designed for coastal patrol and overseas missions. Her mission was not large-scale warfare, but protection of American interests abroad. Mohican was named after the Mohican Native American tribe, following the tradition of naming naval vessels after indigenous peoples. She was built during a time when the United States was redefining its role on the world stage. USS Mohican was commissioned in 1885. Assigned to the Asiatic Squadron, she sailed thousands of miles from American waters to ports across Asia, China, Japan, the Philippines. Her presence was diplomatic as much as military, showing the American flag, protecting American citizens, and enforcing maritime law. Life aboard Mohican was demanding. Coal-fired boilers required constant labor. Sailors worked long shifts in heat and humidity. Yet the crew took pride in serving aboard a modern steel warship. Throughout the late 19th century, USS Mohican conducted patrols and port visits. She transported diplomats, protected trade routes, and served as a symbol of American authority. During times of unrest, her guns were a warning, her presence a deterrent. She did not fight famous battles, but she played a critical role in maintaining stability. Naval power is often exercised quietly, and Mohican embodied that principle. By the early 20th century, Mohican returned to American waters. She served in training roles, harbor patrol, and secondary duties. Newer ships were entering service faster, more heavily armed, more advanced. Mohican was aging, her machinery outdated, her role diminishing. Still, she remained in service, a reliable, if unremarkable vessel. USS Mohican was decommissioned in 1915 after nearly 30 years of service. For a ship of her era, this was a long life. She was struck from the Naval Register and sold for scrap a few years later. It was during this final phase that stories began to emerge of her sitting quietly moored near industrial yards, near rivers like the Hudson, no longer a warship, no longer crewed. She became a silent hull, waiting for dismantling. What happens to warships when their service ends? Most are dismantled quietly, their stories forgotten. Subscribe if you want to uncover what happens after the flags are lowered, because retirement is often the most haunting chapter. During the early 20th century, the Hudson River was a hub of shipbreaking and industry. Old naval vessels were towed there to be dismantled, recycled, and erased. Ships that once sailed oceans ended their lives beside factories and rail yards. USS Mohican was among those forgotten hulls, her steel cut apart, her identity slowly disappearing. To locals, she was just another old ship, but to history, she was a ghost. USS Mohican left no dramatic sinking, no final battle, no heroic last stand. She simply faded. No museum preserved her, no monument marks her resting place. No photographs captured her final days clearly. This quiet end is why she is remembered as a ghost ship, not because she haunted waters, but because history barely noticed her passing. Many sailors served aboard her, lived years of their lives on her decks, yet the ship itself vanished from public memory. Crew life aboard Mohican reflected her era. Coal dust covered uniforms. Engines roared constantly. Ventilation was minimal. Sailors slept in tight quarters, worked long hours, and relied on discipline and routine. They stood watch in foreign ports, experienced unfamiliar cultures, and represented the United States far from home. These men are now forgotten, but their service shaped American naval presence abroad. USS Mohican represents a transitional period in naval history. From wooden ships to steel, from sail to steam, from coastal defense to global presence. She was part of the new Navy movement, which modernized American sea power. Without ships like Mohican, the United States Navy would not have evolved into a global force. Even modest vessels play critical roles. When historians refer to ghost ships, they often mean vessels lost at sea. But there is another kind of ghost ship, a ship that survives, but is forgotten. USS Mohican fits this description. Her hull once cut through waves, her flag once flew proudly, and now only records remain. She haunts history not with mystery, but with silence. The Hudson River holds many forgotten ships, merchant vessels, ferries, naval hulks. Industrial growth demanded steel, and ships provided it. Mohican became part of this cycle. Her steel reused, her form erased. Yet the river remembers. Even if people do not, ships like USS Mohican remind us that history is not only shaped by famous battles, it is shaped by routine service, long deployments, quiet patrols. Thousands of sailors served on ships like her without recognition. Their stories deserve remembrance. USS Mohican no longer exists in physical form. Her steel scattered, her decks gone, her guns silent. But her story remains in archives, in naval records, and in the quiet memory of history. She was not lost in a storm. She was not sunk by an enemy. She simply faded away, a true ghost ship of the Hudson. History forgets quietly. The ocean forgets slowly. But stories bring the past back to life. Subscribe if you want to explore real forgotten ships and uncover the silent ghosts of naval history